Hey guys and gals, this is Logan Freeman, and this is the LiveFree Investors Podcast. I interview investors and business owners who share investment advice so you too can live free. Today I'm talking to Anthony. Anthony, in a few sentences, if you can, tell us what you do and who you are.
I'll start with who I am. So I'm a family guy. I've been married for just over 5 years. I've got two kiddos, a 10-month-old today, little girl, and a 3-year-old wild man boy. My wife says he takes after me.
I love it.
Love the energy. Hope it keeps going.
Yep.
And in the daytime, or I guess day and night, if you're a business owner, investor, I run a company called UNA. And UNA is Latin for together. We are a group purchasing organization, and we help companies, in the simplest terms, save money on how they procure and buy different products and services so that ideally, EBITDA, as you would know, as a real estate guy, is higher. So we look at it in multiple ways of not only are we saving on cost of goods, and in the procurement world, we call it indirect spend.
Yep. But
we try to go beyond that and think of the ownership mentality. How is this benefiting the organization beyond that? Can you hire more folks? Can you have a higher return on your investment and profit and all those good things? And so we try to take an advisory approach. We work in the private business space. So typically a business that's doing, I'll say employee sizes. We can work with all ranges because there's different maturity levels of every business.
Yep.
But typically, you're going to have a couple hundred employees or thousands of employees, anywhere from a range of 10 million in top line to hundreds of millions or billions. There are some categories where we can service that. So that's been a fun, really for the past 8 years I've been running and joined an investment group. I've got investors, one of them being my brother. So that's been a fun ride, and I feel like we're just getting started, I guess.
Man, I love it. I love it. And a couple things there. One, I took Latin for 3 years in high school.
Okay.
And so I sort of knew that was a Latin word, but I didn't know what it was. Brother Dennis was our Latin teacher, and Brother Dennis shout out. He's no longer with us, but Brother Dennis used to sit up on his stool and fall asleep during the middle of class, and we would just sit there and talk. It was quite funny. And then he'd wake up very mad and hit you with his cane if he saw you laughing at him. So anyways, Brother Dennis was. So
I experienced a little bit. I went to parochial school through 1st through 5th grade, and I got a version of that as well. I don't know if it would fly these days.
No, probably not. Probably not. And I also love that, you found, this niche in what I would call, secondly, I tried to get the license plate EBITDA, but it was taken in Missouri. So if you can get that, man, you should definitely try to. That would be hilarious. Yeah. Have that as your license plate.
That would be fun.
But secondly, you've created a business, and people think that these businesses that they're starting have to be these sexy new ideas, right? You looked at a business and said, this is a pain point. I'm going to solve for this. And you've created an incredible service for those folks, man. I was just having a conversation with somebody about this. Like, everybody thinks they have to have this new, crazy, awesome idea. And all you got to go do is solve problems.
It just makes it too daunting. Everybody wants to be the unicorn billion dollar valuation. And, I know there's plenty of other leaders that talk about it's been really for the last decade, really sexy just to raise money rather than to actually make money. I'm not sure why. That's not how we built this organization with our team of owners. We've started from the ground up for better, for worse, and didn't take outside capital and just bootstrapped, if you will, organic growth. And, we're always looking for strategic acquisitions now, the size of business that we are. But this idea that, we all talk about the same 5 billionaires, Elon Musk and the list goes, Facebook boy. Exactly. So Zuck and the others, but I could go into it. Like the 1%ers, I think the 1% income in the United States is like $450,000. And less than, I think the top 10% or 15% don't even, I think it's like you start making $125,000 a year. So if you really look at the data, now it kind of depends on how are you making that money. Speaking of living free, like are you a dog and you hate it and you're working 8 hours a week,
traveling every week,
fun, and you don't want to get up out of the, up in the morning, I wouldn't recommend that. But anyway, little sidebar there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, okay. So you're a successful business owner. What's the best thing about being an investor and a business owner, man? What is the one thing that you think that you can point to that it's like, I don't know if you've ever been a corporate guy. I was for a very short period of time.
I've been fired 3 or 4 times.
Okay,
so
great. We share that. So
I guess in some ways I don't brag about it. I smiled, but I think about it. I'm like, just this idea of, well, we have to do it this way because it just didn't fit well with me.
Yeah, same here, man. So what's the best thing about being a business owner and an investor?
Well, I think the simplest fact is I literally at this point can get up every day and do whatever I want, but I actually enjoy the business that we're in, building the brand of Una and the team that's behind us that actually has really helped us build the brand. But I think the benefits, I look at actually making money or building value as a game.
Yeah.
And so I want to get up every day and win the game. And so I think exponentially, it's not even so much about the money, but you think exponentially, if you can start something or buy something and get into an environment where you have exponential potential, there isn't a limit to where you can go. So I think it's the creativity and the exponential opportunity, of course, the economics.
Sure.
But then the things that you can do with it all and how you spend your time. So ultimately for me, what was more important than the economics was the time.
Yeah.
Because it's your number one asset.
Absolutely, man. You cannot create more unless you minimize it, right? You can create more things, you can buy more things, but time with those 2 kiddos and your beautiful wife, I'm sure, is extremely, extremely important. And it's same here. So love hearing that. All right, man. There's been so much happen, just all these things going on this year. And it's been an incredible, crazy year. It's created incredible,
to say the least.
It's created some incredible challenges on one end, but some really incredible, opportunities on the same time, on the different spectrum. But how do you keep up to date on a regular basis with everything flowing in so fast? Like, how do you aggregate it and make good decisions based on what's going on?
Just from a business perspective, or just how Anthony does life? Mainly business.
Yeah, we do the business part first.
Yeah. So from the business perspective, we have a very, I would say, pretty niche, the GPO kind of procurement, sourcing, supply chain. Of course, those are all different verticals, but they kind of get shoved together.
Sure.
There's a handful of, what I've found the best is LinkedIn and some of the social platforms and the influencers. Your niche gets tight in a hurry.
Yeah.
And so I think there's enough podcasts and information out there that not only that I'm myself, but our team, we want to kind of continue to promote learning inside and outside the organization, are always learning about what's expected. What are we dealing with right now? I mean, of course, this supply chain and sourcing has impacted consumers. Well, it was an interesting little ordeal there, I think, in March and April, when there were some shortages, just because you had this bullwhip, frankly, which is everybody gets all the products, and then there's there's a surplus of toilet paper, which I really don't understand why everybody went out and bought a bunch of toilet paper. But
same thing with deep freezes right now. You can't find a deep freeze anywhere. Right. Everybody's buying deep freezes.
Yeah, because they think it's going to happen again in the fall. So the concept of cost cutting, or supply chain, or how I'll say the reliability of supply chain and where it's being sourced. And of course, PPE product conversations, we're in those daily, has been so top of mind. And so a lot of it, as hopefully people are stepping back from a business perspective, specifically to Una, we're in a lot of those conversations of just even not only the supply chain reliability, but the solvency of some of our suppliers, because so many are being furloughed or, folks. And so and it's less maybe about the solvency, unless it's a pretty small organization, but what is the service and experience going to be for our members? Because you're furloughing, you're expecting the same coverage with customers, yet you're getting rid of everybody,
right?
Because your profits are gone, because hospitality is gone, restaurants are gone, and that's 40% of your business. So those have been some real challenges. And what we've had to do is either, well, of course, be upfront with our members, but then look at different holes in our portfolio to service customers in a different way that are either essential or haven't been as impacted in certain categories. So again, kind of that pivot, adapt or die. Sometimes it's a little more aggressive way to put it. From a personal perspective, and I'm about 2 weeks into this, and it's definitely been delayed. I am just in total cleanup of my own life. I'll tell you, I'm a big believer either in writing your goals down, which it's something about writing something down. There's an emotional mechanism, like it transfers to action typically if you're writing it down. But then I believe with the notion, wholeheartedly, you become what you think about. And so making sure you're really thinking about the right things, glass half full, what are you focused on in the morning and night? And of course, making room and time for family. And I think balance is relative to everybody, and making sure you're on the same page with your partner, whoever that is. But from a personal standpoint, getting up early, making sure you're exercising and making sure that a consistent part of your week, eating right. And I'm frankly recovering from March, April, May, and probably June of some of the sluggish or easy to kind of fall back in total transparency, and probably a little late to the game, but thankful that I'm doing it now and adding, it starts with the D word, which is discipline.
Yep.
And it overflows into everything you're doing. Now, your personal decisions, your daily habits, unfortunately, but fortunately, do flow into anything you're doing from a vocation standpoint, in this case, running a business or real estate, what have you.
Absolutely, man. Writing crystallizes thought, and Think and Grow Rich is such an important book because your beliefs lead to your emotions, which lead to your actions, and that ultimately gets to your results, man. So, I'm curious to ask you this question, and you can take it any way that you want.
Okay.
What's the best advice that you've ever received as an investor and a business owner?
The best advice I've ever received, so I have a high sense of urgency, which is the nice way of saying I'm extremely impatient. And I think I've referenced this before. It's actually a terrible reference because, well, it's good and it's bad. The fundamentals of it are great. The vehicle in which it's shared. So the movie, The Score, where they actually steal, which I obviously am not embracing, but I think Robert De Niro is teaching this young Padawan, if you will, unfortunately, this art of theft at a high level, if you will. And he gives them a success principle, and he says, look, think about what you want, and then understand that it's going to take 25 to 30 years to go achieve all this and earn it all. And the young guy's like, oh, I'm just going to get one big score and I'm out of here, what have you. And usually that's when people get pinched. Now, aside from this idea of theft and stealing and robbing, there's the success principle is patience, and really being patient with yourself on understanding time and how long really good things take to build and grow.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about, I'll give it another example. I think it was, when Amazon started, don't quote me all this, but I believe, what is the food company that their food retailer?
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods. Okay. Don't know why I couldn't remember. So when Amazon started, I think Whole Foods was valued at I don't know the valuation, the market cap. I assume they were public already, but they were a $300 to $400 million company. And before we get into the actual ranges, they were very large is the point.
Sure.
Now, Amazon just bought them. I don't know. It's like 2 or 3, 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like $13 billion. I can't remember if it was an all cash deal plus stock. But it's an amazing dichotomy if you just go back and actually look at the delta and the time it took. And if I don't know if anybody has seen, Amazon, of course, is a unicorn example, but Bezos started with an actual door. He used doors, like old doors, as a desk. And there's actually a really cool picture floating around.
Still does, by the way.
It's still, I think they all, like, I don't know, does he still do it and all the employees do too?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I
Which
read
again,
that book, The Everything Store or whatever, and it was
okay.
Yeah.
There could be something to the roots, right? And never forget where you started and where you came from. And, you know, he's always, it's funny. He's like, well, everything I started small. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of bunny trails, but all the stories lead back to this concept of patience, and that you don't have to, you know, the overused word of disrupt. You just have to consistently be able to solve problems and do it better than maybe the guy next door or gal, or add on to what somebody else is doing. And it's just, you know, good things take time, but healthy things grow. Absolutely. And Una's in its 8th year. It's very, I mean, and I say the cliche, we're just getting started. And look, if I had the team that I had today, or knew what I knew today back 8 years ago, would we be bigger? Well, of course we did, but I didn't know it. I had to make all those mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes, I guess, as a secondary success principle. Be okay with failing. You don't need to repeat it though.
Yeah.
And so trying new things and continue to be a constant learner would be my secondary. But the number one is the patience game, because there's so much pressure. I didn't know what I wanted to do in high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do in college. And some people, they know that's great, you know, and they find a niche that has some explosive potential, but that's very rare.
Yeah. I love what you said. A couple things. And it reminded me of a quote, be impatient with actions, but patient with results. And then also, good things take time and healthy things grow. Never heard that one before. So appreciate you dropping that today. That was awesome. All right. Well, this is a social show. I have a lot of folks on, and I try to bring people that aren't always on, you know, podcasts.
Yeah.
You know, so
great.
Love to have you promote somebody on the show. So what other successful investor, business owner, person like yourself should be on the LiveFree Investors podcast?
Yeah, I definitely think so. The first guy that comes to mind is Chaz Wolf. He's been a dear friend, best man at my wedding for a long time, and he's invested in real estate. He's building his own sales coaching business. He owns some franchises. He's got a great story that goes beyond just sales and his background. And I think he would be a phenomenal person for your audience to hear from. And I think he can bring a lot of value.
You know what? I think that I'm going to look up Chaz real quick on LinkedIn. Let me see if it's the right picture.
I'm sure you guys have connected. I mean, there's not a lot of Chaz's. I don't think he's been on your pod. So.
No, he definitely hasn't. So I might rely on you to give me an intro. I'll text you that. Appreciate that. Would love to.
And I believe I did on LinkedIn. You connected and had Josh McCallan on your podcast, correct?
I don't think Josh has been on yet.
Okay. Well, He would be another great guy. He's doing obviously the syndication route with real estate. He's just very mission minded. He's got a management company, but they have a very unique approach to the assets that they're approaching. And based on his hospitality background, he would be a great connection.
Wait, is he the chief operating officer at AMG?
No, it's called, well, he's got a fund, I believe, called Accountable Equity.
Oh, okay.
And then his hospitality company is called Viva May, which actually means like restore the soul. They have this like whole redemption, like redeeming of a story there. I think they're in the process of buying an asset that's like 200 years old.
Cool.
They're all about weddings and just this entire experience in hospitality. I think he would be an extraordinary guest for you. So I gave you 2.
Thank you for that, man. 2 for the price of 1. I appreciate that. All right. Most important question of the podcast. I did not brief you for this, but it's all about my brand. We talked a little bit about it, but what's your best tip, or what's the best way that you live free on a regular basis?
Best tip, living free. You know, the thing that comes to mind and recently is I'm a big connector. And so making sure that on a daily, maybe not daily, but a weekly basis, you're staying in touch with the folks that really mean the most to you, whether that be your significant other, family or dear friends. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go through your laundry list and try to hit the 100 acquaintances. I think you're going to have, 2 or 3 really deep, what you could say best or great friends, but making sure you're keeping the main thing. I'm a God-fearing man as well, but also I just think about, and especially when things get really tough. My dad's 81. We all, I believe we're all fighting in some way, some silent battle. And so I'm not trying to get doom and gloom, but I don't believe you die and come back as a tree. I think you get one shot at this life on this ball of mud, regardless of, faith or religion.
Sure.
Words religion I hate, but ultimately, not to get too philosophical, making sure you're keeping the main thing, and hold on to those folks. And so however you're connecting, phone, text, go see, obviously still seeing people, I guess, on an appropriate basis and an appropriate distance, how you're doing that. But that's the first thing that comes to mind, because ultimately, it's a fun quote. I'm sure you're familiar with Zig Ziglar.
Oh yeah.
It's a funny story. And this gal comes up to him at the end of, I'm sure a magnificent talk. And he's talking about the movie. Well, he's not talking about the movie, but the movie Aviator is all about, what is that guy's name? That's the story behind him. I'm just drawing another blank. Have you seen the movie The Aviator?
No, it's been a while.
Oh, that's going to really bother me. And who's the guy that does in The Big Short? No, I cannot believe it. Anyway, this guy's a billionaire, and his parents had a tool business, and I can't remember his name. And it's, again, I feel like I need to Google it. But the gal says, "Hey, so how much money do you think he left when he died?" And Zig Ziglar in his Southern twang said, "Well, honey, he left it all." And the way he tells the story, of course, and who he was, this gal was walking through the line and she asked a few questions, but then she ended with this. And if I can remember the guy's name, he did the movie Hell's Angels.
Is it Howard Hughes?
Howard Hughes. There we go. How much money do you think Howard Hughes? Did you Google it? Good.
Yeah.
How much money do you think Howard Hughes left? Well, honey, he left it all. And so I just go back to just making sure, if you've got people close to you, that you're loving on them and staying connected, especially in a world where it's really easy to get lost in technology and actually be less connected.
Absolutely.
If you don't know what you're doing.
Quality over quantity when it comes to the relationship.
Even better way to say it.
This is a interesting one I've been throwing at the end of all of my podcasts.
Okay.
Who's going to win the election?
Oh boy, getting political.
I'm not. I'm staying objective. You don't even have to say why. I'm just curious to know people's thoughts on who's going to win.
Well, here's what I'm cautious to answer the question. Well, so there was, I guess, a study, again, I can't remember the name of this organization, that said Trump had a 29% chance of winning in 2016. And I guess right now their current forecast shows him at a 27%. He has an interesting history where I can't tell if he'll either help himself or hurt himself based on what he says or tweets. And I think the Democrats are doing whatever they possibly can to keep Joe from ad-libbing or saying anything. I thought it was an interesting
two great candidates to run our country, right?
2 old 70, guys in their 2 white males in their 70s. Ultimately, I really don't care who's the president. I think, Congress, of course, if anybody understands, actually writes the laws. Executive orders can be redone. But if you go back, the economy is going to go in cycles regardless of who's the president is.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess that's my take. I have a feeling that there's probably going to be a change in power. I think it's going to be really tight. But ultimately, the beautiful thing about America is we are a capitalist society. We do have a constitution. We do have a Bill of Rights. I do believe in I'm sure nobody believes in lawlessness. We do need to have rules and laws and keep people safe. But from a business perspective, you can still win.
Yep.
I think it was, I don't know exactly the era, but but income taxes used to be much higher than 38, 39%. I don't believe that those are going to skyrocket. And most people, if the corporate tax rate does increase, if there is a change in guard, that won't even impact you, depending on how you run your business, or how big your business or entity focus. So I think there's a lot of, again, the glass is half full. It's a Wall Street run government. I'm not going to be, I don't know how to tell you, the little guy, and in my mind, the little guy is, unless you're, the hedge fund managers, I mean, you're opening up a can of worms. Like, I could go on and on. I think ultimately there's ways you can win regardless. What'd you say?
I said, all you got to do is say a name.
Oh, I know. And either one is so controversial. And I think people forget that every 4 years, it's always controversial. This is not unique. In the Reagan days, in the Clinton days, in the Nixon days, it was hyper polarized. Just the ability to communicate messages so much more quickly,
yes,
I think dramatically changed things. They say FDR would have never been elected if there was TV. So ultimately this is where we are. And I believe this is what I'll end with, because I think you're a hopeful guy that's glass half full. There is so much good coming. There is still so much opportunity, despite if there is or is not a guard change. And frankly, my faith is not in the president of the United States, although I will respect whoever it is.
Got it. That is the most eloquent answer I have ever received without giving an answer. I love it, Anthony. That was great. Spoken like a true investor and business owner. I don't know if you want to connect with people, but if they want to connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, love to connect with anybody. I mean, if it's regarding from a business perspective, you can find us at una.com, literally una.com. Contact us. There's a lot of ways. We've got a fun bot on there trying to have a conversation. And then I've got a personal brand, anthonyclervi.com, where I really just share and talk about my insights on empowering business leaders, and sharing mainly a lot of my mess ups and thoughts as a young budding business leader, and where I think what makes sense and what's been helpful and effective for me as a business owner and leader.
Well, thank you for that. This has been very insightful, Anthony.
Let me ask you, let's end with this, Logan. Who do you think is going to win?
I think that Donald Trump is going to win, because
he's going to get it done again.
I think he's just a winner at heart, and I don't think Joe Biden has it in him to beat a guy like that. And I think that's a much more psychological thing than anything, because Donald Trump, one thing after reading all of his books early in my career, is that guy hates to lose no matter what. So I'm a little afraid of what he might do to win, but I don't think that Joe Biden has it in him to necessarily beat a guy like that. So I'll leave it.
I think it would be what I hope they do, and let the democracy really run, is I hope they'll do some debates and just let it fly. Let these two hopefully not totally stumble over each other, but get into some real topics, and let the public, make their call and show up to the voting polls, or all the different ways you can vote, despite the next polarized topic of how we're supposed to vote. But I'm with you on that. It'll be very, very interesting, I guess, to say the least.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Well, guys, this is Logan Freeman with the Live Free Investors Podcast, where investors and business owners share advice so you too can live free. For more insights and ideas on how you can live free, connect with me on LinkedIn today, and Anthony at una.com or anthonyclervi.com. Man, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Logan. It was fun.
Until next time, guys, live free.